Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It's Geoff Mosher and Adam Caplan, and we're finally here. It's our first game preview pod of the 2020 season. Adam, we made it. We made it through it together. We're here. It's been a big week for us.
Yeah, it is, Geoff, and it's a big week. We'll get to the announcements in a second, but look, you and I kind of differed on this in the spring. You were more concerned than I was about the season, but you had good right to be, because this is everything we went through in our lives. Everyone listening, everyone watching, was going through something we'd never experienced before. It's interesting. So, as you and I were going through what we were about to announce, we announced on Thursday, I was looking back at where we were when this all started, when the pandemic started. I was at the Combine with you in February. I remember I saw Howie Roseman, the Eagles GM. This is just within a week or two of there was this mystery about some virus. And Howie's not a big handshaker anyway. He's a big fist bump guy, which is fine.
Right.
Really, honestly, from now on in, I'm done shaking hands. Okay, it's disgusting, quite frankly. Because guys are just, guys got to put, touch in their mouth and all this stuff. So
can I just tell you really quick? I'm a huge fan of the like the Asian.
Okay, what do you use?
Put your hands together and bow.
Yeah,
I wish we could all do that. Bow.
Let's do that. Let's do that. Yeah, I like that. Okay. Hi, Geoff. Okay.
There you go.
That.
Bow.
So let's do it. Take a bow. So that's when quite frankly for me, that's when I remember, because I saw Howie in the Combine room, and he, just gave he actually may not have given the fist bump. He might have given the forearm bump, because that didn't touch his hand. So anyway, as I move back here, I don't want to get off the mic, but so that was my remembrance of this thing. And then I had a speaking engagement a week before the week before free agency started, and we got a little bit more information, but no one was panicking yet. But I brought hand sanitizer with me to the speaking engagement. People are like, "Why are you doing this?" I'm like, "Because it's a virus." Okay, that's what it is. It's not just some thing that's going to flash and go away. It's a real virus. I don't know anything about it more than you do, but I know for me, when I travel, Geoff, I take certain cold tablets with me, especially when I go to the Combine. There's times I've gotten sicker at the Combine, by the way. People coughing and sneezing on you. So to move this along, why am I bringing this up? We've come a long way in 6 months.
Right.
The COVID numbers are what they are, but they're not super bad. They're still bad, but they're not rising crazy. But somehow, some way, you and I have persevered through all this. Josh Weinfeld, our business manager, Hunter Brody, who helps produce this, all of our affiliates, all of our fans, our numbers have gone through the roof. And I don't know what else to say. I'm blown away by all that we're doing. We're getting the show, folks. I get it. I know I've seen you on Twitter. You complain that we promote stuff. Sometimes we only do 30 seconds, but tonight it's important because we're starting the season. But I just wanted to sum up that. Thank God we're here. You brought that up. And I had questions. I was with you when you were concerned about the season, but I did know from my league office sources that they were going to do whatever they could to make sure they played a season with or without fans, because of the money, obviously. And they thought they could put in stringent protocols. And Geoff, guess what? Those protocols were damn good. And so far,
knock on wood. So far, so good. So, yeah, it's felt like an eternity, right? These last 5 months, you've said, have been very big for us. The last 48 hours have seemingly been even bigger. So for those who have not yet heard, and I believe by now most people understand they've seen this, but I just want to make these two announcements. First, Adam and I reached a deal to bring Inside the Birds radio to the airwaves, or Inside the Birds to the radio airwaves. We've got a Monday night show on 97.5 The Fanatic all season long from 6 to 8 p.m. You don't have to live in Philly. You can download the 97.5 The Fanatic app and listen to us wherever you live. You can even call us, because we're going to take callers, something we don't get a chance to do on the podcast. It's going to be a really awesome show. Adam and I have worked at The Fanatic in the past, so a big thanks to Chuck D'Amico and everybody at 97.5 The Fanatic for making this happen. We're very excited. Again, starting this coming Monday, 6 to 8 p.m. every Monday throughout the season. Second, and Adam, go ahead.
On that, we will be on the Fanatic Monday mornings, correct? For one hit every Monday, correct? On the morning show with Mark Farzetta.
Right.
Yeah, wanted to add that. You and I are going to alternate. I'm going to do this Monday, then we'll just alternate every Monday. So that's probably about a 15-minute segment. They'll get that up on their app, and they'll also get it on their webpage, their website. Their app, by the way, I want to add this before we move on here. Their app is phenomenal. Phenomenal.
It is a good app.
The Ron Jaworski show, which is on Wednesday. We're on Monday. Jaws' show is on Wednesday. They got to show up on the app in an hour. I missed it. I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is awesome. And it's beautifully,
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Beautifully done. It's one of the best. It's one of the best radio apps I've ever seen. So make sure you download it.
Right, and they podcast things very quickly. So if you miss it, it should be up, as Adam said. Second, and I think this is even bigger news, there's going to be an Inside the Birds Sunday Eagles pregame show, which will start this Sunday from 10 a.m. to noon. It's going to feature myself, Adam, former Eagles Pro Bowl left tackle Trey Thomas, and everyone's favorite tape breakdown guru, Greg Cosell. That show is going to be live streamed.
Yes.
This is important now. It's going to be live streamed on our Inside the Birds YouTube page, Facebook page, and Twitter account. So make sure you are following. And Adam, I mean, when you know how our fans love Greg Cosell, and of course,
oh my God,
he's a great cast.
You know, it's so funny. So we had somebody else we were trying to get, and unfortunately, we had an agreement, but it doesn't matter. We like the guy who couldn't do it. So anyway, things happen sometimes. So either you or Josh said, "How about Cosell?" And I thought for sure Greg was doing work for the Eagles on Sunday. So I'm like, I don't think so. It's like, wait a minute, there might be a chance. Let me call him. And I called him, and he was trying to process it. You know, Greg's a big processor. And he's like, wait, where is this? Wait, you're doing a TV show? And I said, yeah. I said, it's unbelievable. This just came up like 2 weeks ago. Our business manager, Josh Weinfeld, who's a brainchild, really, of all of our business affairs, he goes, do you want to do a TV show? We'll produce it. Geoff and I are going to co-executive produce this show. And I said to Josh, let me ask Greg, and I'll see what he says. And Greg said, you know what? Let me think it over. And then I guess he talked to Josh. You talked to actually Greg on Wednesday or Thursday. Okay.
Every day feels like the next. Yeah.
So much has happened in the last 48 hours, as you outline. I'm kind of, all the whole thing. And this is, and I know people are going to say, you're just saying that because it's you guys. No, it's the best pregame show that we're out there. The best talent. No bullshit. Sorry for my language, but there's no BS. There's no arguing. Now, we may have disagreements. Great. That's what I want. I want nothing contrived. If something comes up we don't agree with, then we don't. It's going to be, you're going to be the smartest fans. Well, you already are smartest fans, but you're going to be even smarter. So Geoff and I, we're going to learn from Greg and Trey. Right. And then we're going to have our scoops. We're going to break news that we're sitting on a bunch of stuff, but we need to get confirmed. Some we know is right. But we'll have by the way, I haven't talked about this with Geoff yet because we haven't finished our rundown for that show yet. Inactives come out at 11:27 to 11:30. We'll have them, and we're going to break them down, all the lineup changes, who's filling in. We'll give you some fantasy tips based on our sources. We know fantasy pretty well, obviously. And Greg and Trey will break it down. Offensive line, we got a real offensive lineman in this thing, and Greg is unbelievable. But before we move on here, see the ITV TV we just did with him, which already has 6,000 views in less than 24 hours.
He's the man.
Thank you, Geoff, for putting that on Anchor, so you can hear on Apple and Android. Good job. And people, you've never seen anything like this, and we're going to get this done. And bear with us because we've never done anything like this before. Producing it ourselves with a great production company, which we'll get into. But there you go. That's enough. That's all I got.
Yeah, and I just want to tell people for more details on it, because we are doing it from Goose Island in Fishtown, and if you are in the area and you want to see it, you can. You just have to, I believe, make reservations there, give them a call in advance, or go to their website, Goose Island in Fishtown, and there are more details. So go to InsideTheBirds.com, and you'll see the big story is all the details for this pregame show. But real quick, if you're an older type like myself, and you don't like to watch long shows on smaller devices and you have a smart TV, then I encourage you to use your smart TV, download the YouTube app on your TV, find Inside the Birds YouTube channel, and you should be able to watch our show on your TV. Because I personally like to watch a longer show. I'm old school. I like to watch it on television, not necessarily an iPad or a phone, although you can definitely do that. But I just wanted to let people know that's how I would, if I were you and wanted to see our show, I would watch it.
All right. And one more thing, Verizon Fios, right. Verizon Fios has an app on the TV. I've watched it before. I've watched. Now, I don't know if you can get live programming on it, because when we go live, you'll see the live icon. But I don't know if they would. I guess it would go. I know it's going to go on YouTube on an app, but I'm talking about the app on Verizon Fios television. I assume it shows up there. I'm assuming it does. I've never watched anything on YouTube live on my TV. So
I think you're showing that.
What's that?
I said I think you're showing that you've never watched anything on a YouTube app, because I think.
No, I have. No,
okay.
I have. I've watched tape stuff, but I've never watched a live game or live show on YouTube apps on my Verizon Fios. But it's really cool. Technology is ridiculous, and it's going to be a 2-camera show, which is almost hard to believe.
I know,
because usually TV is usually 1 or 2 cameras. Jeez, I did ESPN shows with 1 camera. Like, this is, I don't know how we're doing this, but special thanks to Josh Weinfeld and DraftKings and all of our sponsors. We really appreciate it.
All right, let's break this game down, Adam. As Andy Reid likes to say, injuries, because obviously we have to get into these. There are some significant ones. Let's start with, actually just injuries and news. Before we get to injuries, do you want to talk real quick about the Jason Peters situation? I don't know. I mean, between Doug Peterson's press conference at the end of the year, where he wasn't firing coaches, then he fired coaches, to this shenanigans with Jason Peters marching into an office, and I don't know how the Eagles do this. It's so ridiculous, but whatever. It's been done. So
you sound exasperated. Yeah, I understand.
We laughed at it when it happened, and so. But anyway, Jason Peters, tell us what you know about the contract.
Yeah, here, according to his agency, he was making a max of $6 million with $3 million fully guaranteed at signing. Now he'll make a max of $8 million with $4 million fully guaranteed at signing. So get a little bit more money to play left tackle. I don't know what else to say other than, okay, great. He got the money. I knew this was going to happen. It got done, I believe, Tuesday night or okay, so it got done. It got finalized on Wednesday, and they announced it Thursday. Maybe he had to sign the contract. It doesn't. The timeline is irrelevant. They got the thing done. I still have a hard time believing, as I said when we first talked about this, that Peters just all of a sudden went in there without Doug having any idea that something was going on. Come on, he's the head coach, for Christ's sake.
I know.
But anyway, whatever.
No, the byproduct of this, Adam, is that's good. He's the left tackle, but Lane Johnson has to get a restructure. 30-year-old now, Lane Johnson. He's going to be 30 this year. He gets a restructure that I'm imagining kind of kicks some cash down the road, because it converts base salary into signing bonus. And as most of our listeners know, signing bonus gets spread out over years. So now this has to be spread out. So it may add another year. And it's not like Lane is old. I'm not saying that. But the whole point is that restructuring these contracts, which Lane has done a couple of times now, becomes a little bit more risky, as we see with Alshon Jeffrey, every year that someone gets older. And this had to be done so that Howie could still roll over free cap space this year from next year. The point is, when you go back and we talk about why I was so adamant about moving on, and I'm not on the side of this is all a big mistake. I'm just saying we have to watch now and see the dominoes fall in the chain reaction of what happens now that Lane had to have a contract restructure that's going to kick some of his money down the road.
Yeah, and what it does is when you talk about added some more years, it adds more dummy years where there's no base salary. It's just that it has to be extended by year for promotion purposes with a signing bonus.
But that's still money
kicking it down the road again.
Yeah, it's still money on the books, even if the player is not. So it's just interesting.
Well, it's cap space.
Cap space, right. So it's just interesting because, like, when years ago when Howie would do this, we felt it was good. I mean, it's still a good move in many cases, although some would. I think we had Andrew Brand on, and he said he was not a big fan of that, right? That kind of a style of.
Well, what he said was, as long as you get them right,
right.
As long as you get it right, they've gotten all of their gambles. They had rolled double sixes until Alshon Jeffrey's deal. Now that was a mistake.
Sure.
It unfortunately he got hurt. Who knew he'd get hurt? But if they would have given them the answers to the test, they never would have done it. But unfortunately, he broke his foot.
Right.
So we'll get to Alshon in a second. But that's where that is. And then there's the Zach Ertz situation. Zach, surprisingly, Zach's usually pretty private with this stuff, and talking to a couple sources on this, he was pretty fired up on Thursday when he talked about it, and he wants a fair market deal. And the Eagles have made it clear they want to extend his contract. They want to take care of him, but they want it on his own terms. You and I nailed this in February. Why am I bringing this up? We told you it was going to be a problem because of Goddard.
Yep.
It's a real problem. And then what we also told people it was our combine show, I'll never forget it. We looked at each other and like, this may not go well because of Kelsey and Kittle's deal. We said both would have to get done. And the other thing we could add now is that Kelsey's deal is not that great. And the Eagles, according to multiple sources, want to do a deal similar to Kelsey's deal. They're talking about Travis Kelsey, by the way, tight end of Jason's brother. And quite frankly, it's just not good enough. It is really challenging, but the Eagles have made it clear they want Zach to be an Eagle for life. I'm told they have not, as of Thursday night, they have not talked in 3 weeks. So at the last, like if you're Zach, you're probably going to want to get this done by Sunday. And by the way, it's a very simple deal to do. You find the middle ground between Hooper's deal, which is $10.5 million, and what's the kid's name? Kittle's, it's $15 million. So you pay him $13 million. You find guarantees that are less than Kittle's. Find a number that's workable, and there you go. But here's the Eagles' issue. If they do this, Geoff, what do they do with Goddard next year? If he
that's why I think it's not. It's simple. You're right. It's simple as in getting him the money would be simple. That's not a difficult contract. What complicates it is, to me, goes back to what identity the Eagles want to have. Do they want to be a 12 personnel, 2 tight end offense for many years to come, or do they want to be hopeful that these receivers that they've drafted work out and that they are a 11 personnel, 3 wide, 1 tight end offense for years to come? If I took Doug Peterson and I injected him with truth serum, I think he would say, I would rather be an 11 personnel team because I'm from the Andy Reid school and we believe in spread offense and dynamic explosion and speed all over the field. And as good as my tight ends are, I'd rather have speed on the outside. That's what I believe he believes. But he's a good coach, Adam. So good coaches take their best personnel and they find a way to use it. But here we have a situation where by the end of this year, if Jalen Reagor looks pretty good, if Arcega-Whiteside develops, Deshaun Jackson has a nice year, then Doug has this situation. Well, I've got good 11 personnel and good 12 personnel. Can I now go forward with one or the other? So that's what complicates it. The identity that Doug wants going forward. Look, now, I don't know if you can answer that now.
One thing I would counter that with, though, is this. The Eagles made it clear that they do want to extend Zach's contract, but here's the kicker here. They don't, based on the intel that I've had on this thing for about 6 weeks, it doesn't sound like they want to do more than a 2-year structure. Well, this year's salary, though it's not guaranteed, it doesn't matter. He's on the roster. He's a vested veteran.
Correct.
You're not cutting him. So they would owe him the money anyway.
Right.
It's ridiculous. It's that this year's is irrelevant. It's always been about 21 and 22. For Zach to be happy, this is just me kind of looking at the information that I have. My sense is he's going to want some fully guaranteed money, a decent enough amount, Geoff, not to get cut, or such a signing bonus that they're not walking away. So it's right. They got to bridge that gap, and that's kind of the way that I see it.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see. I mean, I think it's going to be a really interesting year, and I think some of these decisions, if there's no contract before as you say, the season opener in the year, I think a lot will depend on how the offense looks, one style versus another. And obviously that's something that we will follow all year long. Now we can do the injuries, right, for this season opener here against the Washington football team in Landover, Maryland. Let us start with Miles Sanders because he has been out with a hamstring strain. We've talked about that for a while. I think 4 or 5 weeks ago we thought that he might be ready for the opener, that it wasn't going to be so severe. But he has been in practice in limited fashion. I go back to this, Adam, and I'll let you, have the floor after. Even if he's healthy, the conditioning is going to be way behind everyone else. I don't know how much you would expect from him even if he is able to play.
And by the way, we got to see what the field looks like at FedEx Field or whatever they're calling it now.
Well, that's a good point.
It's supposed to be.
Yeah, good point.
It's just a rain on Sunday. you want to make sure if you're the Eagles, you're not putting him out there with the weather not great. The long-range forecast, Geoff, for Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern, right now it looks like it's going to be in the high 70s, and the rain level it looked like it was going to have. Right now it's only 15%.
Right.
Very little wind. Humidity isn't bad. Still warm, though. You got to make sure that's decent weather. You got to make sure, though, that he could keep that hamstring loose. As you listen to this at 6 a.m. Eastern on Friday, I'm calling him questionable. That's my own read on the information I've had for the last couple of weeks. I was very concerned when we found they had a strain, because this is exactly what he had last year. They tried to play this thing down 4 weeks ago, and even Doug Peterson, like last week when he was asked at his press conference, said he was asked specifically, "Are you concerned about any of the injured guys being ready for week one?" And he said, "Not really." I forget the exact wording, but he sure hinted that it didn't seem to be an issue. Now, here we are next week. I don't want to put words in the guy's mouth, but he didn't say, "Well, wait a minute, let's just see and go there." And I know he wasn't specific, but when it comes to Sanders, they kind of know what he's got. Okay, it's not a secret. You and I put this out there on the show a while back. Miles had this injury last year on both. He had it on both legs, right, left hamstring strains.
Right.
So this is a concern. Now, here's the other concern. Okay, Corey Clement all of a sudden pops up as limited on Thursday with a quadricep injury. This is a new injury.
When it rains, it pours.
So now, I'm sorry.
I said when it rains, it pours.
Yeah, and then so Boston Scott's the 2. He would start if Sanders can't play. Or, by the way, this is what I said on last week's show. I said if Sanders plays, there's no way he's getting the same amount of work he would have. I think you were alluding to that, because he's been out for too long. So he's not going to get, if he does play, 18 to 20 carries. It's highly unlikely. And Peterson was asked in his press conference. He did ask about that. One of the writers asked about it. Would you limit him? And he did acknowledge that may have to happen. And then Clement now has this. We don't know if it's bruised. We don't know if he pulled his. We don't know anything about it. He was limited, so it's either a new injury that he suffered in this practice. We got hurt in Wednesday's practice, and he was limited on Thursday. We just don't know. But this is not good, Geoff. This is not good.
It seems pretty likely that one of their 2 call-ups that they're allowed to have from the practice squad may be a running back. I mean, they still have Huntley though. So maybe he'll get a little bit more action than normal, although he's just new to the team. You don't know how much he knows, how good he is in blitz pickup. I can't, I would be concerned saying, all right, we're good with Boston Scott and Jason Huntley, right? So I feel like this is a spot for either Elijah Holyfield or Mike Warren. Probably Holyfield, because he knows the offense even a little bit more, to come up and
they need a power back. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Both of those guys are power backs. Yeah.
Yeah, just like you said, they need somebody to get carries. And Holyfield or Warren, I would think Holyfield. I think that makes more sense to me, because he's been with the offense longer. And Deuce Staley, who makes the decision on the rotations at running back. But they got an issue at running back right now. This is not good. I'm not blaming their training staff. It's the simple thing that fans do sometimes on Twitter, which drives me up a wall, as if it's the trainer's fault that he has a hamstring injury. But I know a couple of people brought it up, and it's fair game because it's true.
Yeah, it's kind of an easy target. Yeah.
Jaron Sproles, 2 years ago, we reported on the show as one of our first scoops that he had a hamstring strain at grade 2, and it took him. It should have been a 4-week injury.
Yeah.
Like, what was it? 8 weeks?
I feel like it was 7 or 8 weeks.
And
yeah.
You're right. And this is when you and I did that show. After the 18th season, we this is when agents were coming to us, and we were hearing a lot of information on players were complaining about treatment. And once you know it, they change up the training staff. So we'll see what happens here. But this is not good when you're really 48 hours before the game.
Right. All right, let's talk about wide receivers. Alshon Jeffrey, I can't imagine him playing. Right? I mean, you can't imagine him playing. Right. Yeah.
Nope.
As you pointed out last week, you can't just have 1 week of practice after after having a surgery and being out and just expect to play. So
no. And by the way, Friday is the lightest practice of the week. It's like about an hour and 15 minutes. They're in shorts and t-shirt. They're shorts and a jersey. There are no pads usually, and there's no way in hell he's playing. So, but here's the surprising news. This one, it's not shocking, but it's surprising. you and I both have the same information that the Jalen Reagor labrum tear is very small.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to term it minor, but it is.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not really in pain from what I'm hearing. And it's just a tear. I'm not saying he's playing, folks, but here's the thing. He took a full practice on Thursday. If he takes one on Friday, there's zero reason why they should hold him out. I know they want to save the player from himself. The player, from what I heard, wants to play, but it's not his call. It's a medical decision. They want to do the smart thing here with this player, but man, I'm not expecting him to be doing this well. But you know what? It is what it is. What do you know about this, Geoff?
I'll say what I said last podcast. Even with him out practicing, right? I will say if it were a playoff game, he'd play. It's the season opener. He's their first-round pick. They want him for the long haul. And to be frank, and I don't know if the Eagles think this way, but I think, against a team like Washington, they're going to play a lot of 12 personnel and only have 2 receivers out there. Deshaun being one of them. I think they can survive without him just to make sure that he's at least an extra week healthier, especially with it being the first week.
Okay.
So
I'll say reasonable. This. That's reasonable. That's reasonable.
I won't slam the door, just like you said, you never say never, but it's only slightly ajar. I think people saw what happened in practice and think the door is wide open. I don't see it as wide open. I see slightly ajar to play. Slightly.
I would just, before we move on to Lane Johnson,
mm-hmm.
The thing that, just covering this league for a bit, I just know personnel people will say, listen, if the guy could do everything, why are we holding him back? But
mm-hmm.
you make such a great point, and I haven't asked you about this. You must have good intel on this, because sometimes you want to save the player from themselves. It is a labrum tear. It's very small. There's no concern here for completely tearing, but it's his first injury, by the way, as a professional. Right. How do you know how much he can do? That's the other thing that plays into it. Can he do? If he could do everything, that changes the narrative to me for a second. But they'll do what's right. Only they know. So that's what I have that. But before we move on to Lane Johnson, if Reagor is out, they have 4 healthy receivers. Then they could sign someone off the practice squad if they want. They can only, they could. We'll do the 2 call-ups. But if you want to do more than 2 call-ups, then you have to start cutting players. So this is interesting. So right now, Geoff, it's D-Jax.
Mm-hmm.
J-Jaw would be the X, I believe. Obviously, D-Jax is a Z.
Right.
Greg Ward is their slot. And then John Hightower. John Hightower would be the 4th receiver.
Deshaun, J-Jaw, yep. Greg Ward, and Hightower. Yep. Right. And maybe they can survive without having to call up Deontay Burnett from the practice squad. They might just think that they'll be all right with the 4 wide receivers and the 3 tight ends. Yeah. And be in 12 personnel a lot.
Right tackle. Rodgers is back. Yes.
Richard Rodgers is back. So that was good. And he was with Washington all training camp. So he can
ironically
to the trade.
Yeah.
Exactly. Lane, it seems like Lane's going to play, Adam. It's just, I think the big question is, and by the way, people have to catch this Sunday pregame show for one reason alone that we're going to do.
Okay.
Wait till you hear what Trey Thomas has to say about this ankle injury.
Really?
He's got some interesting observations about the ankle that you'll have to see the pregame show to find out.
Huh. I don't even know anything about this. Okay.
Yeah, I know
really?
You don't know.
All
it's just a conversation I had.
Oh, wow. Okay. This is cool.
And it was funny.
Very cool.
Because Trey is a very funny guy.
He is.
But still, the anchoring, right? You have an ankle issue, and you're just concerned with a very tenacious front 7 that Washington has, with Lane's ability to anchor and get into his sets with an ankle that might or might not be tender. I mean, I don't know. He poses in social media like he's fine. So we'll have to see. Yeah.
So with Lane, it was really weird. Like, I saw him early in training camp and he was practicing.
I
see him on a bike with Dillard. Before Dillard suffered his biceps injury, Dillard had another injury that he was nursing. But anyway, so then I go back to practice 3 days later. And then nobody sees him for, I don't know, 4 or 5 days. So I don't know, but I do know this: he's got an ankle injury. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. The Eagles weren't confirming what the injuries were, but we know it was an ankle, and we didn't know the severity of it. But it's just kind of odd. He didn't practice for a while. But you make a great point. You got to stick that injured ankle in the ground, and you got to be able to push and move off, man. That's not easy. So you're without Brandon Brooks, and your star right tackle is playing on a bad ankle. And by the way, last year he had that bad high ankle sprain, and he played through it. He's a tough guy, so you wonder if it's related to that injury. But nevertheless, he's got an ankle injury. We'll see how he does against that Washington front.
Yeah, and speaking of fronts, the only two other injuries really that we have to mention: Javon Hargrave, Derek Barnett. Hargrave has the pec strain. I'm getting the sense that this is not a slam dunk to play. I don't know.
Well, here's what I think. I don't think he's playing unless he practices it Friday. Here's why.
We have the same sense. All right.
Well, we knew the pectoral strain, but we didn't know about the hamstring injury, which got added this week.
Correct.
He didn't practice Wednesday and Thursday. Friday's the last day of practice. If he's not out there,
he's not
no chance he's playing. Yeah,
that's too bad.
Coaches, yep, it's the first game, but coaches hate playing players when they don't practice, particularly head coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Not that it's a hard, fast rule anymore, but because he's a new player to the scheme, new player for the football team, and he's not going to, if he doesn't practice on Friday, it's just not happening.
You don't even know 4 weeks. So, I mean,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, it's been 4 weeks. Yeah. Good. Yeah. No, hell no. Now, all right. So what does that mean, Geoff, to the rotation?
Well, I would think, Malik Jackson's going to start, and you've mentioned how good of a training camp he's had. Fletcher Cox is going to start, and then the rotation is you're probably going to see Hassan Ridgeway play a decent amount. They added T.Y. McGill to the practice squad, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're going to have to call him up for that. As you've mentioned, when they want to rush the passer, they can slide Vinny in at DT. Am I forgetting somebody?
That's right.
They have
it's Josh Sweat can do it. He's lined up inside. Curry can do it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like going with just 3 natural DTs though. So maybe they call. Well, did they bring Rush back to the practice squad? I'm trying to remember.
No, he's in Seattle.
Right. So that's why they brought T.Y. McGill back. I can see McGill being called up.
Yeah. Hang on one second. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I just say that because I don't like to have. Just if one guy gets hurt, Malik Jackson gets hurt, then you've got 2 defensive tackles for the rest of the game. Fletcher and Hassan Ridgeway, and they rotate too much.
Correct. Raekwon Williams is on the practice squad, who obviously is a rookie.
Right.
And T.Y. McGill, who you mentioned, was with them last year for a brief period of time. Those are the only 2 defensive tackles that they have on the practice squad.
Right.
That's not going to be easy, my friend. I mean, they can get away with it, but it's.
I think they got to call one up.
You're right. Look, they did it last year. Remember, Rush had to play a ton because they were so far down with all the injuries at D tackle.
Yep.
Ridgeway was on IR, and Cox was dealing with some stuff, and we know Malik Jackson was out for the season. They kept losing players. But here's the good news on the defensive line. And I still can't believe it, but it is what it is. Good for Jernard Avery, but he's playing this week. He's not even on the injury report.
Right.
Geoff, the guy looked like he tore his ACL. The reporters that were there, including myself, we all saw it. It looked terrible. He got carted off. I felt so bad for the guy. And then, we had the information that it was just a bone bruise, which, by the way, could be 3 or 4 weeks.
Right.
In this case, it's 2.5 weeks. Bone bruise, and we were also told he has a slight knee sprain. But he's good to go. He's not even on the injury report. It's good for them. Now, the question is, do you dress him on Sunday? Because you need. To me, it's very scary in the first game when you want to have a rotation. I would not dressing a 5th then, but they have 6 on the roster, so I think Avery should dress, right?
Yeah, I would think he would, Adam. I really do think he would, and maybe have a few snaps in there for him. I don't see why not, unless you needed to keep one down and bring one up. But I would think that he would be active if he can play.
Yeah, you need and he's not on the injury report. He's got to play because they need a 5th end, and Tuhill's there as well, who is the training camp superstar. What a great story he was.
Yeah, he'll probably be inactive.
That's
I would think
with the
injuries. Inactive. Right, that is
the
injuries.
Tuhill. Yeah, he won't dress. Tuhill won't dress. Yeah, I don't see that.
Right. All right. We're going to break down offense versus defense, defense versus offense. First, want to remind everybody, check out PHLSportsNation.com. Great affiliates of Inside the Birds, always enhancing the fan experience with their coverage of all 4 Philly sports teams like nobody else. They have great podcasts as well. Follow them on Twitter, at PHL Sports Nation on Twitter, and PHLSportsNation.com. Make sure you're checking them out. We'll pause real quick for another word from our sponsor. All right, let's break this down, offense versus defense. We'll start Eagles offense. Adam, it's going to be an interesting Washington defense only because Jack Del Rio is now the defensive coordinator. They're going from a 3-4 to a 4-3, although here's another really interesting thing about Trey Thomas. that maybe you don't remember. You remember after the Eagles cut him, he went to Jacksonville. And when he went down to Jacksonville, coach was Jack Del Rio. So he knows a bit about what Jack Del Rio likes to do, and so he'll have some really good insight on that. I've said
does he like wait, does he like Jack Del Rio, or who was it who didn't like Jack Del Rio? Or was it Jacksonville? Oh, Hugh Douglas went to Jacksonville. Okay.
Oh, yeah, Hugh Douglas for the paycheck.
Who was the coach? Did Hugh not like Jack, or was it the other head coach? I can't remember now.
I thought wasn't it Caplan back then?
No. What happened was someone who played for the Eagles, and I thought it was Hugh, really did not like Jack? I thought it was Del Rio, but I know Jack.
Well, Jack can rub some people the wrong way. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm okay with Jack. So he's a little crazy on Twitter, but anyway, that's Jack's a good coach.
Who isn't?
Hey, look, they're going to run at 43. They haven't won at 43 in a decade. So
yeah,
their talent. This is a big reason, as I understand it. As someone explained to me, who knows Washington teams very well. With this talent, they are so 4-3. Chase Young, Montez Sweat as your ends.
Right.
Deron Payne and Allen as your D tackles. And by the way, Young beat out Kerrigan for that starting job on the outside.
Wait, what? He beat him out? I mean, they're all going to play.
Yes. Chase Young, but
coming off the
Kerrigan will
bench?
back. Yeah, Kerrigan's going to rotate off the bench. Young won
that guy has killed the Eagles in his career.
He'll kill him off the bench. I mean, I know he is the Michael Conforto of the Washington team. Anyway,
I like that.
Good one. You like that? No, Kerrigan. Yeah. So, he's older. He's in his 30s now, but that's unbelievable rotation. Geoff, so here's my question to you.
Mm-hmm.
We're certainly going to talk this on the pregame show with Cosell and Trey. How concerned are you with this beat-up Eagles offensive line? I know they're going to have 4 of their 5 starters playing, but one of them is playing hurt, and Lane Johnson. How concerned are you about this Washington front versus the Eagles offensive line? I'm
pretty concerned. And, we can look at these edge rushers and just talk about them, but as you mentioned also, 2 first-rounders in the middle, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne. And, Greg Cosell was on with us. We had him on our Inside the Birds TV, which is on our YouTube and podcast. And he mentioned to us that he felt that Deron Payne kind of gets overlooked, that he thought last year's tape showed a guy who was about a top 5 tackle in this league. And so he's probably going to line up against Matt Pryor, who's been moving all over in camp and probably could be battling a little confidence just because they've had him in 3 different positions. And all of a sudden now he's back at right guard for the first time because Peters was there for almost all of camp, right? And now he's got to go up against Deron Payne. So, yeah. I mean, and Jack Del Rio likes to be aggressive. So I expect this Washington defense to come full throttle at the Eagles. And that means that there will be some opportunities that we'll talk about on the outside. But it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be a really good early test for the Eagle offensive line.
You're right. And, the Eagles have owned Washington team for a long time. Last year in week 1, the Eagles really had their way with, and we'll get to the secondary matchup in a second, but the Eagles really had their way overall, and their line was obviously intact. It's not right now. And Jason Peters is 38 years old. About his history sometimes of not finishing games, so that's a concern. Johnson with his ankle. See, Miles is a stud. We've talked about it. You had that great note on our last show about how he's showed some leadership, which is great with the younger players. Kelsey, I'm told, had a phenomenal training camp. Pryor did not have a great training camp. That's a concern. So I'm a little bit concerned here for the Eagles' ability to now if they protect, you're going to have opportunities. You're going to be able to beat them downfield because their secondary is not very good.
Right.
And the Eagles are going to take their shots with the speed now that they have. But if they cannot protect, Geoff, this is going to be a crazy tight game, I think.
Yeah, I think it could be. It certainly has the makings, or the recipe at least, to be that way. It's just funny because Temple's own Matt Ioannidis is a pretty good defensive lineman, and he gets lost.
Yeah, God,
he's a backup. I mean, you can mention 5 guys in this front 7 before you get to Matt Ioannidis, and Ioannidis is a decent player. So they're very deep, they're very talented, and it's going to be
Ryan Anderson.
Test.
Yeah, Ryan Anderson.
From Alabama. Yeah. Tim Settle
was an outside linebacker. So. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tim Settle. Yeah, This is get your hard hat on, guys, because you're going to need it against this Washington front. My God, this is right. There's such a 4-3 front. This is, man. If you're a Washington team fan watching us here, folks, we are in awe of this D line. 5 first-round picks if you include Kerrigan. This is insane.
Now, if Carson Wentz is up for the short passing game, which sometimes we talk about, he doesn't really love so much, that short. I think that there's an area here where the Eagles can really exploit their two tight ends, Goddard and Ertz, against these linebackers and safety crew. Their linebackers they're okay. We talk about that with the Eagles, but even so here, John Bostic, okay, Kevin Pierre-Lewis. What happened to the
athlete,
kid? What happened to Cole Holcomb? Is Holcomb a
he's
starter
a backup.
anymore?
Yeah, well, again, they're going to 43, so they're not starting two inside linebackers.
Right. Yeah.
Thomas Davis probably won't. Who's that?
I thought Holcomb was pretty decent last year.
Yeah. Last year. Pierre Lewis gives him a little bit of athleticism. Thomas Davis is hurt, by the way. He's on the injury report, and he's older. He's not. I don't think he's going to play a ton. Right. Sean Dion Hamilton was there this is his third year. They're just average at linebacker. That's as you brought up, and I totally agree. That's a matchup where you can win. Okay, where you can win if you're the Eagles with screens, tunnel screens to the tight ends.
Yes,
you could win because those linebackers can be exploited. Boston Scott, if Sanders plays, you can. If the hamstring is good enough to play, he would do phenomenally against those linebackers. So you got to beat that front four to win.
Absolutely. One thing we should mention, by the way, is we'll finally get a chance to see the impact that Rich Scangarello might have, and this is a good team to try to do it at. We know that Scangarello from the Shanahan tree is big on pocket, getting quarterbacks out of the pocket a little bit, and you want to do that against a team with this kind of pass rush. And not only that, Carson Wentz is one of the best out-of-pocket throwers in the National Football League. So I'm really excited about that, to see what they've got lined up to spice up the running game a little bit and also to get guys in space. We talked about that being a big focus of Scangarello in this new offense, is getting guys open in space. Adam, as we look at the secondary also, I've seen that Kendall Fuller, who's a decent corner, is on the injured list. So if he doesn't play,
he should play.
You think he'll play? Okay.
Yeah, I believe he's going to play now. They're very average. Fabian Moreau's. I'm sorry.
I just said they should test him. I mean, if you
Ronald Darby, you're going at anytime Darby's on the field, you're going after him. You know what his weaknesses are. We pointed out last fall. If you're new to our show, Darby did not trust his eyes. He could run, but it made him look slower because he would make mistakes with his eyes. Believe me, the Eagles will get him in play action. Whatever you need to do, the Eagles know the player. They're going to do it against him. Kendall Fuller's a slot corner. Fabian Moreau is an outside corner, could run, has got size, but the Eagles beat him last year. And Jimmy Moreland's been this really good story of a late-round pick who's a pretty aggressive corner. But this is a very, very beatable secondary. If the Eagles win this game, Geoff, it's because they protected Jackson. D-Jax got him for 8, 154, and 2 in week 1. Darby wasn't on the team. He is now. Fuller was with them years ago. Now he's back. Moreau was, and Jimmy Moreland was. But they're going to go – if they protect, it's going to be bombs away.
Right. And I will say this, look for a lot of slants on that side that Darby's at, because as we saw, a lot of teams would try to slant him early and then set up the deep sluggo. So Arcega-Whiteside is a really nice type of player to throw that quick slant to. Then you take him out, put somebody else at X with a little speed, maybe even a high tower if they think he can do it, and try to get that sluggo route where you just take advantage of the speed. You know what I'm saying?
And
that double move.
And by the way, right. Landon Collins is not a good cover safety. He can do it, but he's much better in the box.
Right.
This is where the Eagles are going to make their money in this game. They have a decided advantage of their speed, their tight ends versus the Washington linebackers and the Washington secondary. If they protect, they'll score 30 plus. If they don't, this thing's going to be a white knuckler, and it's going to be 20-17, 20-13, something like that.
Right.
And then, Geoff, let me ask you this question. Are you concerned with the lack of offseason and lack of preseason for this football team? And they're
not comparing it to Washington, which has a new coach, a new scheme, new players, playing significant positions. So, yes, am I concerned? Sure, I think every team should have that concern. But I think Washington should be way more concerned about that concept than the Eagles should. I think the Eagles actually are advantaged over Washington in that standpoint. And by the way, quick to throw in, Deshaun Jackson, as we talk about a lot, those 2 touchdowns he had last year, I believe came from the slot. He in a vertical slot role, if I remember correctly. So look for that a little bit if they feel that's the best matchup for them there. Let's talk about the defense, the Eagles' defense against the Washington offense. And I think we can have a similar conversation that we had about the trenches on the other side. I think Washington's offensive line is not very good outside of Brandon Scherf at right guard, and that the Eagles' defensive line, specifically, guys like Malik Jackson, Brandon Graham, and Fletcher Cox should put a lot of pressure on Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah, Scherf and Morgan Moses, the right tackle, is a pretty good football player.
Yeah, Morgan's good. I forgot about that. That's true.
Yeah, Chase Roulier is okay as their center. They got a left guard, should be Wes Martin.
Right.
It's funny, they have two Wes's, Wes Schweitzer.
Yeah, Wes Schweitzer and Wes Martin.
Right. And then Garen Christian. To say he's a below average left tackle is probably being charitable. Right. The way explained to me by a very strong personal source, one of my best guys.
Mm-hmm.
He said, Philly, this guy does not work for the Eagles or Washington. It's just someone I was catching up on. His team's playing Washington soon. He goes, let me tell you something. He said something like, you're as ready as he is to be their starting left tackle. He talked about Garen Christian. He goes, he's just not – he'd be shocked if the Eagles didn't eat in this game. Christian's an interesting player, but he's not ready to be – this guy who I trust does not think he's ready to be a starting left tackle.
Right.
So I'll tell you what. You're right, Geoff. They have a decided advantage. This is another place. They got to make their money against that Washington left side. That Eagles DL, with their speed now that they have, a little bit better speed. Now, Derek Barnett, we didn't talk about him. He's not a guarantee. By the way, he doesn't have the ankle injury anymore. He has a hamstring injury. So we got to see how he does, Geoff. He didn't practice. It's the first time he's practiced in about a month. He really missed training camp.
Yeah. I mean,
right?
I put him in the same boat of people who just haven't practiced. I mean, it's hard to expect them to do a whole lot when they haven't been on the field in 3 or 4 weeks. So if you're going to ask me who's the most important player on the line outside of Fletcher Cox, obviously, I think the matchup to exploit is the guy you mentioned, Garen Christian, and I think Josh Sweat is going to see a significant amount of time across left tackle. I would imagine that if Sweat doesn't start, it's because Vinny will start and play first and second down because he's really good against the run.
If Barnett doesn't play,
I'm assuming. Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought we were. Yeah, I was saying if Barnett doesn't play, right, then I think it's Josh Sweat's time to really take advantage of that left tackle matchup that he's got.
The only issue is he's sort of on a snap count. I never use pitch count. This is not baseball. I don't know why the media uses that and coaches. I hate it. It's snap count. Okay. Let's settle this. It's not baseball. Why do they call it pitch count? Who started this?
Why are you so anal about? What is that, Pete? Is that your pet peeve?
Yeah. Oh, it's so annoying. It's like,
you ever heard of a metaphor?
Well, the first time I heard it was like first time I heard about it 5 years ago, and I heard coaches talking about this in press conferences. I'm like, this is not baseball. It's football. This is not on a pitch count. It's a snap count. What are you guys doing? Like, what is this?
It's because Jim Schwartz likes to talk about throwing fastballs and curveballs. That's why.
Right. No, it's not. You know that. No, it doesn't. Coach, how many times have you heard coaches say this in a press conference? Come on, man.
I'm just saying, Jim Schwartz makes so many baseball analogies. Maybe we just can't help ourselves with pitch count.
By the way, go ahead.
I was going to say, I agree with you that he'll be on a snap count, but I still think he's going to play enough of the game to have an impact when he's lined up against that left tackle.
I just want to say, for the record, I've really enjoyed Schwartz up to this week where he's trying to be secretive, which is fine. We know what they're going to do.
Of course.
Even Scott Turner in his press conference said that, I guess they're aware that the Eagles they might move, because I guess they probably read the quotes from Schwartz during training camp. He's got the option of moving Slay. Well, let me tell you something. You're not paying Slay as a top 5 corner for him to just line up on one side, not travel, to shut down McLaurin, who killed him last season.
Right.
Now, I know people brought up, and some of our listeners are right. I get it. Sometimes some teams take their number 2 and 3 corner and try to double that guy. You can do that, but man, Slay is long. He could run. Why'd you bring this guy in there if you're going to do that? Right.
Right. No, that's good. I think you have to put Slay and have him shadow Terry McLaurin is the only guy I really truly feel that can give them a nightmarish time because he's done it already twice in 2 games. So
he's such a good player.
If you didn't bring Slay here to trail McLaurin for this game, then why did you bring him here? The question I
understand. I read some of the comments on our Facebook page. You should go to there, folks. It is the best insider board for the Eagles in the world. And better than any message board. I know there's some good ones out there, but our folks are incredible. And I saw a bunch of them, and I didn't get a chance to chime in. I understood what they were talking about, but I just have a hard time. And it's funny. This is what Josh Norman complained about, that they would not let him travel. Because when Josh Norman's at his best, he's a long corner who needs to get his hands on you, on the receiver. They didn't use him that way, and it burned him. Look, and obviously he never really played well for them anyway, but that's one thing. So let me ask you this question, because I've been wondering about this. We'd said all offseason we think Schwartz is going to do a lot of pre-snap and post-snap disguise, which he's never done before, but he's got the secondary now to do it. Well, he doesn't have Will Parks, but he should be good enough back there. How do you attack Dwayne Haskins in that Washington offensive line?
Well, I think it starts with the pressure, right? I mean, if you're owning the trenches, first of all, with everything Jim does, Adam, it's stopping the run. The Eagles have always been good under Jim at stopping the run, and so we know Washington does not have a stable of running backs that you would say is outstanding just yet, because we really don't know what to expect from Antonio Gibson. Although just the overall NFL fan in me and college football fan is very excited to see how they use Antonio Gibson, because I think it's going to be fascinating, and I think he's a fascinating player. But I can't look at the stable of Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick and
Bryce Love.
And Bryce Love, right? And they also have Peyton Barber, correct? So
correct. It's grinder.
It doesn't listen. They're going to face a lot better running games on paper than what Washington has. So I do think the Eagles will be pretty stout on first and second down. And then it all comes down to, on those third downs, are they able to get at Haskins, who's not a very mobile quarterback. They used some mobility out of him last year.
Well, he's lost weight, by the way. We should say he's lost like 15 pounds. He's under 220. But you're right. Yeah. He doesn't move very well. See, I think you gotta, because that Washington line, that left side, you gotta blitz.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm going. Wouldn't you go after Garen Christian?
I would. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not afraid of a 5 or a 6 man, the occasional, for Jim Schwartz, 6 man rush, and leaving my guys one-on-one, because A, you got a good chance to get to the quarterback, and B, the quarterback himself is in a growth period here, has a lot to learn, and C, other than McLaurin, they just don't have a lot of guys who I feel are good one-on-one beaters. Sims, like you mentioned, has some quickness to him. Here's what's interesting,
a slot
Adam.
Receiver.
As a slot receiver, right. Here's what's interesting.
He's good, though. He's good. You're right.
Steven Sims?
Yeah, he's a good player, man.
He makes a play. He's a pretty good player. Yeah. What I think is interesting, though, and we've talked about Avonte Maddox, and the only thing that really can limit him in the NFL is size, right? He's 5'9". We know Washington drafted a kid late in the draft, Antonio Gandy Golden, who has a lot of size. Now, I don't know how well he's played in camp. I don't know what his level of preparedness, but he's the type of guy, Adam, that could theoretically give Avonte Maddox a little bit of trouble, because he's a 6 foot, 223-pound wide receiver. All right, Adam. Well, it's time to get into the fun part of this podcast, and that's our pick'em. And of course, we know DraftKings is a big sponsor of the Inside the Birds podcast. And let me tell you, Thursday was just the warm-up. Now is the time to get ready for Sunday's full slate of action. And there's no better place to get in the game than with DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. To add to this week's excitement, DraftKings Sportsbook is rolling out a can't-miss offer. If you haven't tried DraftKings Sportsbook yet, head to the App Store now, because you don't want to miss this. DraftKings Sportsbook is giving all new users the chance to turn $1 into $100 when they bet on any team. That's right. You can place a $1 bet on any team, and if that team wins, you can cash in a cool Benjamin. How you pass that up? If you're new to DraftKings Sportsbook, head to the app now to scout their latest offer. Bet with DraftKings Sportsbook, a sportsbook that goes wherever you go. DraftKings is a safe, reliable, and secure app, making it easy for you to deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. So download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code ITB when you sign up to get this can't-miss offer. Pick any team during week 1 and bet $1 on them, and to win $100 if they win. That's $1 to win $100 when you use promo code ITB during sign-up. For a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Pennsylvania only, in partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Also, on top of this, Adam, why don't you tell everybody about the cool Daily Fantasy Football League special we got going on and where they can find it?
Yeah, so I put mine in. We put the links up on our Twitter feed. We put it on our Facebook group page, and all you do is you hit that link, Make sure if you're not registered already for DK, register for it. I put my lineup in. Man, it is challenging. I got to tell you, I love doing DK daily or seasonal, how you ever want to do it. But this is more of a weekly. But what happens is they're going to track your scores each week to see how you do, and to win whatever we're offering. So you want to do that. Go to our social at Inside Birds. We just went over 5,000 followers just on our Inside the Birds account. So go there. Make sure you do that. Get your lineup in. I put mine in. Some of them I went heavy. I went with McCaffrey this week. Nice. But when you go with the best player in fantasy, you're going to have to go skinny somewhere else. I went with Derek Carr against the Panthers. Can you believe that at quarterback?
Ooh, you might get hurt on that one. We'll have to see. Yeah. I like my lineup. We'll see what we did. I thought it was pretty economical. And so everybody will get a chance to compete against us and see who wins. All right, as for the Eagles game against the Washington football team, DraftKings has the Eagles as 5.5-point favorites, and they put an over-under total of the game on 43. Adam, you go first. What do you see happening?
Well, I was wrong about this game last year because, man, did people give it to me on Twitter. I didn't know what look, I took it like a man. I was like, I was wrong. What do you want me to do? I didn't think week one, because typically we say defenses are ahead of offenses. It's funny. We both said that the Eagles are going to go bombs away against the Washington, but we didn't know they'd be that successful. I mean, with Djax, we thought he'd have a big game, maybe 90 yards and a touchdown, but he had 2 for 154 and 2. I don't see it as a high-scoring game. Now, the difference is this year in week one, they're coming off of no preseason games and no offseason. Lots of new players, new coaches, as you mentioned earlier in the show, which is true. And I think it's going to help them, but it'll help them as the season goes along. This is, as we previewed earlier, this is a great defensive front by Washington. So, with that, I do not see a high-scoring game. I've got it. The Eagles 24, the Washington football team 13.
Oh, wow. We have somewhat similar scores, Adam. In fact, we have the same score for one of these teams. I also have the Eagles at 24. I have Washington football team 20. So I have the Eagles winning 24-20, not covering the 5.5-point spread. However, 1 point over the total of 43, which might be too close for comfort for some bettors out there. Now, you're definitely would take the under with that score of 24-13, you said?
Yeah, at 24-13, 37 points. Here's the thing with Washington. Lack of playmakers other than McLaurin. Although, when I say that, Antonio Gibson, we didn't talk a lot about on the show, but I do want to mention, I did talk to his head coach, Ryan Silverfield, last week, and I asked him, this is the head coach at Memphis, and I asked him, I said, what can you tell us about his game? He's like, look, when we got him at Memphis, we didn't know what he was. Although he was a big guy, he was 6 feet and 230, and they played him at the slot last year quite a bit, and he did darn well. He's a weapon. Scott Turner's got to use him. Gibson, Geoff, is the one guy for the Eagles linebackers that would concern me, because if you use him on screen, he's big and can run. 4.39 at the 40. That's a challenge, man. So for them to score more than 13, that's what's got to happen.
Yeah, I saw what Gibson can do against my Penn State Nittany Lions in the bowl game. He was very, very difficult to stop. All right, that's going to do it for Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. Big thanks to our producer, Hunter Brody. Check out his work on YouTube, Sports Talk with Broads. Check out his work on Twitter, at Broads81. And, of course, be tuned in on Sunday on our YouTube channel or our Facebook or our Twitter page for our first of many all season long pregame shows with Greg Cosell, Trey Thomas, and, of course, me and Adam. And then Monday night, we'll hit you on the 97.5 The Fanatic when we do our show from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock at night. As always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.